Hello, welcome back. Once again, I'm Teacher Ray, and now we're going to discuss the interpretation of tax laws and forms of escape from taxation. So, interpretation of tax laws. So how do we interpret tax laws when they are vague or medyo malabo? So, in case of tax coverage, okay, or covered ba ang isang tao sa particular na tax or not? Covered ba ang isang property sa particular tax or not? Pag malabo or in case of doubt as to whether a taxpayer is covered by the tax or not, the doubt shall be resolved in favor of the taxpayer and strictly against the government. Okay? When the language of the law is clear and categorical, there is no room for interpretation. There is only room for application. However, when taxation laws are vague or malabo, the doctrine of strict legal construction is observed. So, pag malabo yung mga laws, they are construed as against the government and in favor of the taxpayer. So, a vague tax law means no tax law at all. Obligations arising from laws is not presumed. So the constitutional requirement of due process requires laws to be sufficiently clear and expressed in their provisions. So in terms of tax coverage, pag malabo, it is resolved in favor of the taxpayer and strictly against the government. However, in case of tax exemptions, doubts as to the validity of if tax exemptions are resolved liberally in favor of the government and strictly against the taxpayer. Okay, so in case of tax exemptions, it's the government. Okay? In-favor yung government. So big tax exemption laws are construed against the taxpayer and in favor of the government. So a vague tax exemption law means no exemption law. The claim for exemption is construed strictly against the taxpayer in accordance with the lifeblood doctrine. See, syempre nga, ang tax kasi is the lifeblood of the government. So the right of taxation is inherent to the state. So it is a prerogative essential to the perpetuity of the government. So he who claims exemption from the common burden must satisfy his claim by the clearest grant of organic or statute law. So when exemption is claimed, it must be shown indubitably to exist. So at the outset, every presumption is against it. So a well-founded doubt is fatal to the claim. So it is only when the terms of the concession are too explicit to admit fairly of any other construction that the proposition can be supported. So tax exemption cannot arise from vague inference. Tax exemption must be clear and unequivocal. So a taxpayer claiming a tax exemption must point to a specific provision of law conferring on the taxpayer. So in clear and plain terms, exemption from a common burden. So any doubt whether a tax exemption exists is resolved against the taxpayer and in favor of the government. Diba nga, pag nung nanalo si Miss Pia Wurtzbach sa Miss Universe, nagpasa muna ng law ang Congress para i-exempt yung winnings niya dun sa Miss Universe. Or winnings, or I should say, prize niya dun sa Miss Universe. Okay? So there are different forms of escape from taxation. Those that do not reduce the revenue collection of the government and those that result in loss of revenue to the government. Now, let's discuss first those that do not reduce the revenue collection of the government. Okay, so first is shifting. So this is a transfer of the tax burden by one on whom the tax is assessed. So this is exemplified by the different taxes on business. So ang example natin dito is yung value-added tax. Pinapasa niya from the buyer to from the seller to the buyer. Okay? The next is capitalization. So this is a reduction in the selling price of income-producing property by an amount equal to the capitalized value of future taxes that may be paid by the purchaser. And next is for transformation. So transformation is a method by which the manufacturer or producer, upon whom the tax is imposed, pays the tax and strives to recover such expense through lower production costs without sacrificing the quality of his product. So this is resorted to because of his fear to lose his market if he will add tax to the selling price. So example nito is when the train law is recently passed. Ang effect kasi nito sa mga car manufacturers is magtataas yung mga prices nila pag in-effect na yung train law. So, ang ginawa ng mga some car manufacturers is that minantain nila yung selling price nila para maging competitive pa rin sila sa market, pero nireduce nila yung production cost nila. Okay, so that is an example of transformation. On the other hand, those that result in loss of revenue to the government are the following. So tax evasion. So it refers to fraudulent or forbidden schemes or devices designed to lessen or defeat taxes. So this is also known as tax dodging. Ito yung illegal na means ng avoiding taxes. Okay, the tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance, on the other hand, is the exploitation by the taxpayer of legally permissible alternative tax rates or methods of assessing taxable property or income in order to reduce tax liability. So, ito yung tinatawag natin tax minimization. Ito legal ito, tax avoidance. Okay? Tax exempt or exemption from taxation. So this is a grant of immunity to particular persons or corporations or to persons or corporations of a particular class from a tax which persons and corporations generally within the same taxing district are obliged to pay. So sana, well, generally taxable siya, kaya lang merong pinasa yung Congress para maging exempt siya. Okay, so ito, meron tong ina-allow to ng law natin as long as meron kang exemption. Okay? Binigyan ka ng Congress ng exemption. So, pwedeng hindi ka magbayad ng tax. Okay? So, ang example ko nga kanina, si Miss Pia Wurzbach, yung prize na pinangalunan niya dun sa Miss Universe. Okay? So, those are the schemes that result in loss of revenue to the government. These are forms of escape from taxation. So, this is the end of chapter 2. For our references, you may refer to the book of Mr. Rex Mangawan and Attorney Virgilio Reyes. Okay, so for questions and inquiries, please send them in our chat group or in our MDLE class point of clarification box. Okay, thank you.